as a quick introduction, welcome to the Mentor Series. Tonight we're chatting all things owning an events company. And I think this is a very in-demand topic because everyone at the moment, especially discussing everything from freelance to self-employed to running a company, and how do you even get started, and what's the industry like in that circumstance? Because it's one thing you're not kind of taught in uni, and two, with everything going on right now, freelance is becoming more of an in-demand option, and should just even understand the processes behind doing it on your own and getting out there. So I'm really pleased to introduce everyone to Connor, who has returned for his hosting debut again, which is wonderful. I'm so glad to see you again. We were just chatting before this. It's so weird to see each other after so long, like not seeing each other, and it's just so lovely to have you back. And I know that yourself and Miriam got on so well when we did a previous webinar, grad ask, that we used to do. Yeah. So Connor was the first person. As soon as myself and Katie could host tonight, I knew exactly who we were getting on here. So you'll definitely see you'll definitely see the chemistry between you guys, because it was really wonderful to hear your story for it. I'm very excited for everyone else to be able to hear your story and ask any questions they may have. So thank you everyone for joining again, and I'll keep up with the chat in the chat. But I'll let you take over, Connor.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Naomi, and thank you for thinking of me as well. That's really lovely. Hi guys, I'm Connor. I was part of Event Grads from nearly the beginning, and now I'm off doing other less interesting things, but still fun things. I don't have an event company. That's Miriam's side of this conversation. I just really like the sound of my own voice, so I'm here to talk for a little bit. But yeah, we're in really good hands this evening with Miriam. She's got years upon years of industry experience.
All right, calm down on the years.
Could have been decades. It could have been worse.
That's true.
But I'll give you. You're going to do a way better job at introducing yourself than I could ever do, so I'll pass it over to you for the time being.
I'm gonna try. I've done quite a few, not just of these, so I want to try and keep the intro fresh, but it's the same old story. I started in events when I was about 13 years old on a little bit of work experience. Really, I just fell in love with the being in. I was doing press conferences and things like that, and fell in love with it. I then went to art school to do theatre, film, and stage design. Realised I was actually better at, as my father so eloquently put it, bossing people around to getting shit done than I was at designing. So went into that, and I have had stints in corporate, working for PwC. Didn't quite suit my personality, that side of things. I've done conferences, public policy conferences, large scale corporate conferences. I did greenfield sites for some time, working on some of the big festivals, and then really went back to what I first started doing, which was exhibitions, and worked for the NHS for a few years running their annual conferences, and then to Clarion, which was I sort of always look on as my biggest training ground. And left there, and 10 years ago set up my own freelance. It's freelance operations, eventsy kind of company with my business partner, who also left Clarion at the same time. And it's our 10th anniversary in October, so it's all feeling a little. No, next year. Oh, thank God for that. That was aging myself a year. So we've got nearly 10 years of Ways and Means events next year.
How do you feel about that? That must be. And what have you got planned for it as well?
The ideas have started. We did. I don't know if you can see behind me. This was our 5th anniversary. We did a Monopoly game with rather than pass go get 100, it was get your health and safety certificate. Instead of jail, it was an awards hangover, and then it was all our shows all around the board. The utilities were the contractors we used. Anyway, so that was our 5th anniversary. So we now need to try and think of something even more elaborate for our 10th. So we're playing around with ideas.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the whole thing? I know you said it's like sort of snuck up on you, that the 10th anniversary, but
yes, it very much did. It kind of still feels really, really new, but also feels like we've done it forever. So I think part of that is because every year we've got different shows, or we've got different challenges within the shows. So it's really kept it sort of quite fresh and exciting and interesting. So, and that comes, you know, one of the advantages of running your own business is you can take on new jobs that suit you. You can say no to jobs that don't suit you. So yeah, I've never looked back once.
Yeah, because you do like a whole breadth of events throughout a year, don't you? You do like a really, really diverse collection.
It is a little bit bonkers. So I think we do design shows, which are some of the most amazing and challenging shows that we do, because apart from anything else, working with the designers is always an interesting one. We've done drag shows, we do dessert festivals, we do building shows, data shows, we do some stuff in New York, Annalise, we do we do a few actually, we've got a few different things around the States. We do conferences, so it's all, we've got loads and loads of different things, which is quite nice, in just keeping it all fresh.
Yeah, of course. So when you and your business partner set out, what was kind of the like what did you see it being, or did you have an idea of maybe like a specific field you wanted to go into, or you know, what was the sort of business plan, I guess?
So we were quite lucky. We left Clarion, both of us, with contracts, which we amalgamated into Ways and Means. I was at that point in time running the security shows for Clarion. My business partner was running some classic car shows.
Okay.
So that that did sort of soften the blow and make it a little bit easier that we've started with those contracts. And I appreciate that's not always the case for everyone, but it sort of allowed us a little bit of breathing space. I would love to say that we had a really good business plan, but we didn't. And I kind of want to demystify that a little bit. Is we knew we wanted to work together. We knew we wanted, so at that time, our business partner had really young children. They were 4 and 6, I think. So she very much wanted to, you know, she was, they're only young once. I want to be able to pick them up from school. So we've always had quite a flexible way of working. And we were like, the job that we do in operations is long hours. It's hard work. You can be sat at your laptop at 2 a.m. in the morning, but we wanted the payoff as well. We're not doing the, you know, what we do is never going to make us millions. You know, you need to own a show or something like that to make you millions. But we both love what we do. So we wanted to be able to love what we do, work with people we enjoyed working with, and actually, you know, for my business partner to have us all the school holidays off if she wanted to have the school holidays off, which worked fine for me because I don't have kids and have no intention of that ever happening. So I'm quite happy to cover the summer holidays and take my holidays when it's cheaper at the other points in the year. So you know, everyone's a winner there. So that was our sort of main aim, was just to be able to enjoy what we do and who we do it with.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in from a really young age as well. Actually, it's not even just in events, but like, you know, there's a school, a college, a university like path that you should follow, and if you don't know your path, then you're not right. So I always put a lot in stock of not knowing where you want to go, because I think that's where you find the best stuff.
And it's funny, we were talking about it today. We've got a client that we don't particularly enjoy working with, and it's a scary thing, but we're like, do you know what? We're going to cut them loose. I'm not working the ridiculous hours for something like that. And it's scary because it's a big chunk of money to us.
Yeah.
Every single time, and I'm not saying this is some sort of magical formula, please don't follow this advice fully, but every time we've got rid of someone that hasn't been good to work with, something else has dropped in its place, something else that we may not have had time for, may not have been able to accommodate. But because we have that core value of, if it's stressing you out too much or they're not treating us right, then we're not prepared to put ourselves through that. And so it's really sort of trying that. But it's not even work-life balance, because like I say, we do work 14, 18-hour days on site, but we enjoy doing it. Yeah. Maybe not at the 18th hour, but you know.
I think it is difficult, obviously, especially for like new freelancers, because like you said, a job's a job and a paycheck's a paycheck. But having that, having those strong core morals and having a business behind you to do that is
it's about knowing your worth.
Yeah,
you're worth being able to do that. And the advantage of being freelance is that you can, to a certain extent, dictate your time. I mean, it's very hard. I've been lying on beaches meant to be on holiday, answering emails and writing massive documents, because sometimes you have to do that when you work for yourself, or you're running your own business. But then I try my very best not to work Friday afternoon ever. So you win some, you lose some, and I think as long as you've got that sort of in your mind, you're good.
Given what you know now, would you have wanted to start out early in your career as freelance, or do you think the timing was right?
I think for me, the timing was right. I'd been thinking about doing it for a long time, and just never had the guts. And I was basically given a push and made me do it. And that was kind of what I needed at that point in time. I think sort of the stress. I was just talking to a couple of my friends who are leaving long-term jobs because they're not happy there. And I said that was the place I got to when I was in my last job, because I wasn't happy, I wasn't enjoying it. And actually I stepped away, and it wasn't my job that I wasn't enjoying, it was the environment that I wasn't enjoying. And I think the job that I had before setting up, up until sort of the last 6 months, maybe a year at work, I was really enjoying it. I was learning, I was gaining lots of stuff from it. And it was a two-way street. I was working some stupid hours, but I had some of the most amazing, some of the worst experiences, but some of the best learning experiences. And it also allowed me a really good opportunity to develop my network. My network, my business partners network, is really where the business has grown from. So we had really good relationships with venues who I have to say are sort of probably our biggest salespeople, is the venues recommending us. We had really good relationships with contractors who have frequently recommended us. We'd had a chance to do all the networking within the industry, within the ops industry, all that, the ops community. So I don't regret having stayed there for as long as I did, because I got an awful lot for it. Yeah. If I could have done that with this sort of lifestyle, I may not have ever gone. So it worked at the right time for me.
Well, it sounds like, although the business hadn't been formulated, you were building the foundations for years prior to that point.
Yeah, without even really realizing it.
So yeah, timing definitely seemed to work out. So I actually have a list of questions. I should probably adhere to some of these, but just so interesting to talk to. I think you kind of answered the first one pretty adamantly, but the first one is, what made you join the event industry? And I know you said you did it when you were about 13, but what was it about it?
And I have to say, an awful lot of people that I talked to, I just kind of fell into it. I thought I'd wanted to do theatre and film design, which is why I trained in that. I'm really sorry, but I think my neighbour's just come for a box. Hang on.
So about 5 minutes before we started, Miriam told us that she'd taken a package for her neighbour, and it would happen.
False alarm.
Okay.
The dog was just making a racket. It's going to happen in about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, film design and fell into
theatre, film and TV design. And my dad was able, as parents tend to do, sort of, I've got something similar for you to have a bit of work experience in. And, it paid me pretty well. And I did. And then I went on site with them. They said, well, you've sort of done some of the prep work, come on site. And I just fell in love with the camaraderie on site, for all those sorts of things. And so it just kind of happened. The whole time through uni, I was working with an events team. And I just kind of realised that's where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I think again, sort of, what we do is it's a vocation. It's very much a lifestyle. It's a part of who you are. And once you find it, you're in it. Maybe, you shuffle around in events, but you find your little niche in what you do.
Yeah, I think that there is also a real magic to a live show, and especially the putting together. The pre-production's great, but actually being, rigging. I don't work
well without a deadline. I realised as well very quickly. I need a deadline to get me to sort my shit out.
Yeah, give me 3 months. I'll do it in the last hour. Absolutely.
I refer you to my dissertation.
Yeah, I think I can match that as well. Excellent. I think you've kind of done a fairly comprehensive job. I think you must have seen these questions prior, because I think you've kind of hit some of them beforehand. What was your favorite part about? What is your favorite part, should I say, about working in the event industry?
I think it's really been reiterated over this past year. It's and it sounds so cliche, but it's the people. It's a really supportive bunch of people. It's a group, it's a group of people who sort of see you sort of on your ups when the show's open and it's all gone well, and a group of people who've found you sobbing in the toilets when you've been working for 16 hours for 4 days on the trot, and just having a bit of a breakdown because, a piece of carpet wasn't laid properly, and it's ridiculous. Everyone knows it's ridiculous, but we just let her carry on and we'll move on from there. And it's that, the sort of people that I could ring at 2 a.m. in the morning and go, this is fucked up, help me. And they'll go, right, I'll sort it for you. And I think that is what makes the events industry. And you're all working towards this sort of final deadline. Everyone, the sales team come on site and they think they've run the whole show's down to them. But, the cleaner's been there cleaning. That guy's been building stuff since 6 a.m. this morning. Everyone here is working towards the same goal. No one's more important. No one's done a better job than anyone else. This is a group effort to get this thing done. I mean, sometimes people haven't done as quite a good a job, but that's a whole other story.
But yeah, in concept anyway, it all matches together, doesn't it? What does a typical day look like for you? And I guess we'll slash that. So like what prior to and currently, I guess, in the COVID times, how does an event day look like to you?
So event day, I tend to be, and this is something I try and discourage from my team, because I don't actually think that working these stupid hours is a good idea. But once I'm on site, my brain doesn't stop. So I'll be one of the first people on site. And sometimes it's so I can have half an hour just to get myself straight before everyone else arrives. Excuse me. Sorry, it's bubbles. So I sort of try and get it. I always try and get in a little bit before, because I need that sort of half hour zen time to just go, right, that needs doing, that needs doing, that needs doing, before, the second you open that door, it's just question after question after question after question. And then all of a sudden you realise it's 4 o'clock and all you've eaten is half a Bounty bar and a half a can of Coke that you left somewhere along the line. So again, it sounds like such a cliche. There isn't a typical day, and what you consider a normal day is normally derailed halfway through by someone's pipe breaking somewhere, or someone's tripped over and you've got to call an ambulance. And I think the fact that there isn't a typical day is again one of the things that really draws me to the industry. Is it's sort of expect the unexpected. You don't know what you're going to come up against when you're doing consumer shows. Let me tell you, the public are utterly insane, and some of my best stories come from absolutely bonkers members of the public coming in. I had one woman coming in complaining because she couldn't get the discount because she won't listen to the radio because the radio waves affect her. Oh. And this was an hour of my time, and you think, and I'd been having a perfectly nice, quite quiet open day, and then something like that happens. I've had floods, I've had fires, I've been called down to a stage because someone was setting fireworks out of their bra on the stage.
Were they an act, or were they
wasn't just a random person. I've had trading standards come in and confiscate things. Just every time you think you've dealt with everything you could possibly deal with, something else. Goats shitting on stands. Just the insanity of some of the stuff that we end up dealing with is what makes, when you sit down in the bar at the end of the night and just go, oh, I can't take any more, and have a straw to your vodka.
When someone brought a pigeon to the organiser's office.
How could you forget that?
I mean, this is how many insane things have happened to me that you forget whether someone brought a pigeon into the office.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Is that a messenger pigeon?
I think Annalise wants to tell the story.
There is no background. Exactly. Brought an actual pigeon and was like, this is on my stand, as though it was just brought it.
We all just stood there going,
what?
Did it have a ticket? Were they like, what were they confused about?
I did. There's another story, pigeon related, that Laura, who I hired many years ago, she'd been working with me for about 2 weeks. And I brought her to a venue meeting, and it was a venue meeting I'd done loads and loads of times. And the venue manager went, "Do you want me to book the Pigeon Ship?" I was like, "Yes, please," because it was Spirit of Christmas, and it was very high end stuff. And the pigeons would fly around Olympia and shit on the cashmere. So we every morning we'd have to, because they'd let the gates open, the shutters open, we'd have a pigeon shoot. They use a hawk now, and I was walking around the show during build-up, and I just saw Laura sort of going like this, sort of shooing. But I was walking behind her. I was like, "What on earth is going on?" She was shooing the pigeons out of the hall so they didn't get shot. I was like, I think that's the sweetest and most pointless thing I've ever seen anyone do, because it's gonna fly straight back at you. Anyway, we sidetrack onto pigeons.
No, I think that's where this it's an organic beast now. It needs to go where this conversation's going.
We've also set up like sausage stands next to live pigs, which I thought was somewhat cruel, especially as I'm vegetarian. I'm like, "Here's your brother, have him for lunch."
I think we're getting a lot of what not to do in this.
Yeah.
Like, look, actual don't work with pigeons, pigs, sausages. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I need a minute.
Sorry, back on track, Connor.
I need something way stronger than water. I did not know what I signed up for. Right. What would you say the key skills required for your role? I think we know some of them.
Adaptability, some sort of livestock experience apparently comes in handy. I think problem solving, being able to think on your feet, and I have to say that's one of the things that I'm really worried about coming back to, is the speed of thinking. And because you can sit there with you've got a radio going, your mobile going, someone stood in front of you, all of that, and you're having to retain information from all the 3 different things and think of solutions. Because everyone thinks ops can solve everything, so they come in and it's like a completely irrelevant problem, and you have to then come up with something, and you think of a way of solving it. And I think that's a generally decent skill for any discipline in events, is problem solving. Customer service, being able to put a smile on your face when shit is going wrong, which is really not one of my skills. My face says much more than I allow it to. I hire an awful lot of actors because they can stand there smiling at the front desk while wanting to murder whoever's in front of them, which is, again, not something I'm particularly capable of.
I'm really worried now, because I've been doing customer service on a phone. So I've gone from being like, "Hi, how are you doing?" to "Hi, how are you doing?" Like, just thunder on the face. Yeah, exactly. My voice sounds lovely, but my face is saying a whole different thing.
So I think that adaptability, problem solving for events are some of the key skills, and being willing to muck in to help each other out. And I very much believe, if you help someone out, they may not help you out straight away, but that is good karma, and these sorts of things come back to you. And your reputation as someone who's willing to muck in goes around the industry. This is a really small industry, despite all the different facets. And so if someone is hiring someone, the number of people I get calling me going, "Oh, we're thinking of hiring so and so. Do you know them? Have you met them? Do you know anyone?" And so being willing to muck in, being part of a team, stands you in such good stead, and really helps develop your reputation in the industry.
I think it's also one of the really unique things about this industry is like, there are job roles and titles, but like as soon as something needs to happen, they kind of go out the window and people just like get the thing done. And it's really interesting to see in action. It becomes sort of, I think that's, about you're saying about people mucking in and talk, everyone communicating. It's really.
I've had event directors dragging chairs around a hall at 11 o'clock at night, or ripping up poly from the floor, and it's shit just needs to happen, and let's get on and do it.
Which is, it's
exactly
right.
For life, if you ask me.
Wonderful. I mean, you've given so much advice already, but if you had one key bit of advice for anyone that was looking to work in this industry, got like one little bumper sticker or inspirational quote that you'd be remembered by, what would it be?
Try to think of an inspirational quote where I don't swear. I think it's take all the opportunities you can, Annalise. I think on the EM Connect the other day, I was chatting to one of the mentees who had started out as an intern, and then had been offered like a fixed term contract, now has a permanent job. I think take all the different opportunities. Go and see as many different events as you can, because there'll be one of those things will sing out to you and will be the thing that really attracts you. But I think also just by getting bits, doing the things that maybe finding out what you don't want to do is what I'm trying to say. So if you've taken a lot of different sort of temp jobs or feature manager or going on site at festival, you start to feel a flavour for what it is. So just sort of find your way. And there's nothing to say that the sort of first type of events you go into is the one you have to follow your whole career. You might find something else, or you might actually find that maybe events isn't the right thing, but actually you've learned these skills. You've learned the customer service skills. You've learned the team player skills, all those sorts of things. That everything that you do teaches you something, good, bad, or ugly. So take those opportunities where you can.
Yeah. So don't read too much into this question, but what would you say to someone who's maybe feeling a bit burnt out with the industry, especially like right now, or maybe feels like they've got, a bit of imposter syndrome about, they've maybe had a lot of theoretical skill, but not had a lot of like actual practical skill?
I would say, number one, you are not alone. I think an awful lot of people are feeling that. And I think sometimes just knowing that it's not just you feeling that way kind of helps just in itself. I think a lot of people are feeling very, very burnt out. I know that we've had to do pieces of work 3, 4, 5 times because every time we've got it done, the regulations change or the dateline changes, all those sorts of things. I think the piece of advice I would give is, if whoever you're working with or your peers, talk to them and talk. If it's your manager, say what you're feeling, because I pretty much guarantee no one's been out and done a live event. No one's done the fun part of what it is we do. Yeah. For a few people have done little events, but it's not the buzz and the continuous nature of what we do. So I think a lot of people, I'm quite worried about going back to work. I don't know how I'm going to do 10 days on site when I haven't done it. There's a muscle memory in your body that gets used to the walking and the being on for that amount of time and having to smile and be nice to people. So my first event back is a 10-day event, and I fully expect that I am not going to be able to formulate a sentence by the end of that, because I'm just going to be exhausted because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, and that's a fairly big first event to go back into.
Yeah.
You want to do a little one-day toe dip?
I really, really would like to, and it just happened that this is the way it happened, and it's at a point in our calendar where my business partner is trying to run 3 events all at the same time. So she's got sort of 3 smaller events, and I've got this one mammoth event that it has to be me because I've got the historical knowledge on it. So we're just sort of at the moment trying to work out how we're going to do it, and we'll find a way. We always do, but I think we're all quite nervous about those first events going back. And I think trying memory recall. Laura, who she just did the EMxEG event, and she said I couldn't remember things like I used to. She was like, I had to keep everything written down in front of me because my memory recall wasn't there. So I'm thinking like I might have to do some memory games with the team or something like that, just to try and get our brains working again.
Get brain training again. Yeah, I guess no one's really had to. It's all been like, in a digital capacity, so you can have it on a screen, or you can just, be furloughed and sit and not do anything for months. Which
I think, I know there's an awful lot of sort of stuff going around about people being on furlough, but I think so. Our assistant's been on furlough for the entire time, and she's worried because, again, she's not worked, she's not had to use those skills. So we're sort of bringing her back slowly because she's not worked that length of day. All of it is like new. She's forgotten how to use all our systems, which fair play, so have I. She was the one who taught me half of our systems, so I don't know what we're going to do now.
Blind leading the blind.
Well, a little bit. And so I think there's that. It's going to take a little bit of time for that muscle memory to come back, that sort of being able to do the length of days we do, all those sorts of different things. And I think just be kind to yourself. Have some chiropractic appointments booked way in advance. Do your Pilates, get your core strength going.
I think that's excellent advice, and I'll be booking myself in for a chiropractor immediately. This chair is horrible. So you kind of raised an interesting point about your partner having 3 events and you've got one big one. So I guess for me, more than anything, how do weights and means operate? How do you approach a problem and and divvy up the workload, I guess?
So I mean, this particular problem is a direct result of COVID. Everyone in the first half of the year shifted into the second half of the year. And so it was all shows that have previously been my business partner. She's been the account manager for those shows. She doesn't run them all on site herself, but she oversees them all. And it just was sod's law that hers all bunched into this three in 1 week period. And I've always looked after this big design show, which is relaunching in a brand new venue that's never worked as an exhibition hall, that only has one loading bay. The event director's left, the features manager's left, and I think I'm an external member of staff that's worked on it for the longest period of time, and we're building a marquee. So, a nice easy one to start off. You
wouldn't want to go too difficult, would you?
No, I thought I'd take it easy on myself. So yes, so that it just kind of happened like that. We're quite lucky in that we've got a very large pool of freelancers who we work with on a regular basis and know our systems, or used to know our systems, who know how we work, who know our clients and work in similar ways to us. So the clients, because I think one of the big problems we have is because me and Jill go in and pitch, and every client thinks they're going to get me and Jill, which is it's just simply not possible and not a viable business model either. So we've built up a really good pool of freelancers. Certain ones fit with certain clients, certain ones have different skills. So we've got some really good safety people who work with us, so they do certain things. We've got some people who are brilliant on site but don't particularly want to do any pre-work, so those roles get allocated. So we are very lucky in that we've got a very loyal pool of freelancers that we use on a regular basis, and we've sort of kept in contact with them. We've tried to give them bits of work where we can over this period of time, just to make sure that everyone can survive, because we need our team when we get back to it.
Yeah, of course. How big is the core team?
So the core team is myself and my business partner, and then we have 2 assistants. Okay. One's more of a senior exec than an assistant. And then we have a freelance. So the freelance pool that will be working with us at the end of the year is, we've got about 5 freelancers working with us at the end of the year, just to try and get us over the line. And also, a lot of people haven't had a lot of work and a lot of income, so we want to sort of try and share the love a little bit so that as many people can get as much as possible.
Yeah, that sounds really lovely. How did that come about then? So, when you started off, you and your business partner, did you always know you wanted it to look like that sort of way, or? I
think because of the nature of what we do, so sometimes we just get pulled in as a year's stopgap, for example, maybe when an ops manager has left and they're hiring but they won't have someone in time. Sometimes it's just that we work on a launch so that they can then sell the launch on. So we knew that it would be a sort of contracting, expanding kind of situation. So we wanted to have a core team that worked with us constantly, but also be able to expand when we needed to, but not have that, and it's been a lifesaver over COVID in that we've not had a team of 8 people. It has been we have been able to expand and contract as and when we need it. But also some of the skills that we need aren't skills we need throughout the year. So, and we'd much rather sort of buy in the resource with good people who are good at what they do than have a sort of a lower level for a longer period of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are kind of the main skills that you look to sort of outsource then?
So we quite often outsource like full operational management. So there's about 3 on our team who we would just hand over a show to in its entirety. Oh, wow. Then we've got some people who are very good at health and safety. We've got people who are good at food safety. We've got people who are good at sort of specialist treatments. We do another random show we do is a clinical and cosmetic reconstructive surgery show. So I know an awful lot about injectables and syringes and and I am squeamish. Mm-hmm. So very quickly found someone who could manage that for me rather than me having to do it. That is another story, but there's another story there, but that's several more glasses of wine before I tell that story.
We'll stay on after the show.
We'll stay on track at this time. And sometimes we just recognise that we don't know particularly all that stuff, and go and find someone who does, who works with us. You know, we very much enjoy what we do, so we want people who enjoy their jobs. I don't want someone going on site in front of a client being miserable and dragging their feet around the place. So that's how we find our people.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really good way to do it, I guess. You know, putting the people that are most passionate about that thing, or maybe least squeamish about that thing, in front of it. And what would you say has been the most difficult part of your career so far? And I guess that can be either the current with Ways and Means or the whole event career, your choice.
I mean, if we ignore the last year, because I think we can all agree that that's been the most difficult part, yeah. But I have worked in a venue that was built for the purposes of exhibitions. They bought the company I was working for at the time in as consultants with a contract to run shows there, to be the exclusive people to run shows there. They sold the dream and delivered pretty much nothing. The venue didn't work. The people didn't come. The venue team themselves, one by one, had a breakdown, so there was no one left there. So I was basically running the venue. The show went so badly, I had to put security on the event director because people were following him to his car and threatening him. So he had to have close protection security.
Was it Fire Festival? Did you?
No. But it made Fire Festival look quite well organised, I have to say. No, it was just shocking. It was really, really bad. There was that, or there was we did a massive film event in the O2, and again, event director had a breakdown, disappeared, left me to run the whole thing, which we'd taken over the cinema, which was 10 cinemas. We turned Indigo into an IMAX cinema, and we had exhibition in the two sort of, there's 2 large spaces along there. So apart from anything else, it was like a mile back and forth every time. So I ended up setting up shop in the Wagamamas because it was halfway between. And bless the guys there, took a pity on me and just kept bringing food over to the table because I couldn't eat at all because I was so stressed out. And we had like Daniel Craig, like Warwick Davis, big names at the event, and the ticketing all fucked up. The cinema weren't clearing out in the cinemas. It was sort of just one after the other, and it was like all I wanted to do is just sit down for 10 minutes and no one talked to me, and just every single minute someone else was coming up to me with something that had gone wrong. So those are probably 2 of the worst events of my life. It was the time the marquee started sliding down the really steep hill as well. That wasn't a great moment. But other than that, I had a lovely time.
Yeah, nice and easy. Please.
Yeah.
How would you approach those again now, like, much further on in your career? How would you sort of, if you were given the same?
I think I have to say that, the film one, I don't think I stood up enough for myself at that point in time, because I had seen a lot of these things coming, and I'd mentioned them, but the event director was absolutely shocking, and I wish I'd sort of pushed those things a little bit more. I think that, you know, that's something I've learned with age, and I've become a lot more confident. You know, I think you do become a lot more confident in your job as the more you do it. So that was that issue. The venue, I mean, the venue hit an awful. I was pretty senior at that time, and as were all the people working with me, and it was a car crash that no one had seen coming. I mean, things like the Wi-Fi didn't work in the hall, and of course everyone's taking payments on PDQ, so no one could take payments. That I just look back on and just go, you've learned from that. I don't know how else we could approach that, because we did, again, at that stage, I was more confident. I'd learned from the other one, and I did say, these things aren't going to work, and they just ignored it point blank.
I think that's
and it came back to roost.
Yeah, I think that's as good a learning experience as anything, though. Just being able to go, yeah, that was a dumpster fire. We don't have to.
Yeah. So, someone once told me, it's like, never think of things as a bad experience. Think of it as a learning experience, and you take something from everything, and you learn.
And you know, it's definitely put you on the right track, because you are where you are now, and you know.
I've got some very good stories out of it. I have to. So I did a talk a little while ago on crisis management, and now the thing I always say to myself is, when you can see it going wrong, take a breath, think this will be a great story in about 2 years' time, and then go and solve the problem, because.
And at least you know what a 10 is now, like on a crisis scale. like nothing else compares. So it's like,
is anyone dead? Okay. We're fine.
We're still in 6 territory. This is redeemable. So I'm just going to flip the whole thing real quick. What's been your career highlight of your career? E.g. career highlight. Sorry, that was horrendously asked.
Funnily enough, the film show actually had one of my career highlights as well.
Really?
Although it was my business partner who did most of the work. Is we did a live link up to the Muppets.
Brilliant.
I mean, as cool things go, that I would say is pretty fun, cool stuff. Some of the design shows that I've done, I've opened and sat back and gone, that looks fucking amazing. It looks really, really good. I have joy every moment. Every time I step onto the show floor. You can have a little look back on Ways and Means Instagram, I think on our website as well. Is we did these absolutely insane colourful carpets. The whole show was just filled with colour, and it was but a great team working on them as well. So it just, the whole experience was really sort of uplifting. I really enjoyed those shows. Drag World was quite a good career highlight. That was an awful lot of fun. I think Dessert Festival. I mean, that was we did both of those in the same weekend. I was in a cab running between the two shows, either bringing glitter or cake one way or the other, probably both ways, if I'm honest. So that was a very colourful weekend for Ways and Means. The only time the entire team have actually volunteered to come on site for the weekend. So just
no coincidence to the content. Yeah.
No, people chose which one they wanted to go to, and everyone was happy.
How do you sort of plan for having 2 events in a weekend? Like, how do you sort of split yourself down that middle?
I have to say, most of the time there's sort of been a natural split. Either the client is already established, so one of us is already overseeing that client, or we just have an open and honest conversation. There's some events my business partner would rather do and I don't, and vice versa. So it's very much about open and honest. And if it comes to a clash with the team, we just sit down and say, where do you want to be? And best as possible, we try to accommodate them on the basis that if they're happy on the show they're working on, they're going to be better client facing, better in front of everyone. So we do try and match that up, that the shows match the people.
Yeah. Do you think there are, well, I guess you must have had times where it's like, this is just impossible to do two together.
I mean, we've used it as an excuse, if I'm going to be honest, but it's never actually been the case, because we do have the team that can expand and contract. I don't think there's been a time we've ever turned down a show because of the clash.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah.
That's really impressive. I'd have...
Just make it work. But
Yeah.
again, ops make shit happen. So we find a way.
Yeah, that's got to be the event industry like tagline, isn't it? Just make shit work.
Make shit happen.
Yeah. So that's actually the last of my questions. But we've got a couple in the chat that are really good. One specifically from Daisy, which is, I have an opportunity to start setting up to become self-employed. However, I've put a business plan together in order to do this. Do you have any advice on putting a business plan together?
I would say get someone else to sense check it would always be my piece of advice. I would get someone within the industry to sense check it, and I would get someone out of the industry to sense check it. Because someone in the industry will sort of understand what you're trying to do and have that focus. Someone out of the industry will ask you critical questions and ask you sort of things that it may seem obvious to you, but not necessarily to an outside eye. I would get yourself a decent accountant. The first thing I did is got myself a decent accountant, someone who works with small businesses, someone who works with sort of the various different cash flows. They will tell you how to set up properly. They will tell you how to maximize your tax. I am not a financial advisor by any stretch of the imagination. There was a really good talk, or there was a freelancer summit sort of at the start of lockdown, really.
Yes.
I think it's just Freelancer Summit.
Yeah,
I think
the one.
the stuff's still all on there. And there was someone from, I want to say, not Mazuma, a financial institution, and she came and...
Was it Monzo?
Well, maybe it was Monzo.
Yeah, I remember the talk.
Zuma's the phone selling, isn't it? Monzo's the money.
Yeah, I think so.
She did a really, really good talk on the different types of setups that you can be, depending on what sort of size of business you want to be, how you want to put your tax. But again, a good accountant will tell you the best way to set up. But I would just say get a couple of people to sense check it, because I think you get quite precious when it's your own work, and it makes perfect sense to you, but someone sort of prodding at it isn't a bad thing. It's just sort of finding out where the leaks are or where the weaknesses may be. Yeah,
you've got to prod it until it no longer like folds in on itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess following the theme of demystifying, what's sort of the next step after doing that? So if you've got your business plan, you hand it in, how do you go from that to sort of business?
It's been a while since I did that, so I can't quite remember what the steps were. I think just make sure you're set up properly, so your bank accounts are done. Use something like Xero or QuickBooks or something, so you get all the foundations in place. It's get your IT set up properly. I set our IT up, and I ended up having to pay a fair bit of money to get the IT sorted out, because God knows what I'd done on the Google Drive. So get those things set up, because your foundations, get your sort of templates for all the different things you want to do, because you'll find you're doing an awful lot of the same thing. Get your quote templates set up, get some nice designed elements, get your brand solid and strong and something you feel passionate in. Get those all set up before you start, because once you start, you don't have time to wipe your nose, let alone do any of those other bits. So if you get yourself that nice foundation, once you get running, the basics are there, and you're not having to sort of backtrack and try and set those things up in reverse.
So good business plan, great accountant, good IT, the three pillars of
basically, yeah. Get yourself a support network as well. I think, especially if you're on your own. I was very lucky in that I had my business partner, but get yourself either a mentor or a group or a network or some peers that you can bounce ideas off. I've always, me and my business partner, an idea starts in one place, I mention it to her, she takes it somewhere else, and we bounce it back and forth until it's fully formulated. Having those people that you can bounce off really helps.
Yeah, I think any idea, but to sort of send it up and then actually go, wait a second, let's bring it back down into a good workable idea. We have a really good question from Alice in the comments as well, which is how would you recommend getting more relevant experience? I guess especially that's really pertinent right now.
I think I'm a believer in sort of writing to people. Look at the shows that you want to do or the events you want to do, find out who organises them. No one's going to get annoyed at a CV bit landing on their desk, I think, and I think actually at this point in time, an awful lot of people are a lot more considerate of those sorts of things, are very aware that there's a whole sort of year or almost 2 years of event grads who haven't been able to get out and get their work experience. There's also at the moment, there's a very big worry amongst the associations, amongst the industry, that we're losing an awful lot of people. You know, people have gone outside of the industry and gone, actually, I can work 9 to 5 and see my children or see my partner, or I can go on holidays, but, you know, at the weekends and things like that. So I think as tough as this last year has been, I actually think there's quite a lot of opportunities there, and just push yourself forward. Go to things like Confex, or BPS has just finished. Go to those sorts of networking events and meet people and talk to people. Say yes to opportunities that you may have. Go and work the box office at a festival. You meet people there who have other contacts, and you earn a bit of money, you know, rather than going and working in Sainsbury's. Do all those different things. Find out who the temping agencies are for we use a massive range of temp agencies, and just being on site, gaining that experience, being able to then talk knowledgeably in an interview for maybe what is your dream job. You've gone and done those things, and I do think there is going to be a raft of opportunities, because we've lost an awful lot of people out of the industry over the past year.
Yeah, I think especially everyone who's in the chat, you know, if you've stayed in the industry during this time period, you've already survived through one of the toughest landscapes that it's going to throw at you. So, you know,
absolutely,
you're going to be fine.
I keep sort of say to my friends, is like, there's no way I'm giving up now. It would really feel like falling at the last hurdle. I made it. We've made it this far. You damn well better believe I'm going to be on site by September.
Yeah, and I think you know, it only takes a day, or you know, or one good day, one good week, you know, one good reply to an email or anything. You know, it may feel millions of miles away because of the last year, but
I mean, we work on the basis for every 5 quotes we send out, we get 1 back. So not everything is going to be fruitful, and as disheartening as that may be, you know, an awful lot of people don't respond to CVs. It is disheartening, but just keep pushing.
Stick with it, guys. You're going to be excellent. We have another question, and I do apologize if I butchered this name. I think it's Darlene, which is, what do you think is the minimum amount of advice planning time needed to develop / plan and execute an event, in particular a business conference?
I mean, I put together events in 6 weeks. I'm not going to say it was an enjoyable experience or put on the best event possible. Conference experience I'm not so great in, but when we're working with anyone who's launching an exhibition, we will advise them to do an 18-month lead in to launch the brand, get sales, get the people, the sponsorship behind them, get the team in place, get the marketing, build the community. So I did conferences, I did sort of public policy conferences, and we normally did those from, if I remember correctly, about a 12 to 15 week lead time, which gave the conference producer a few weeks to develop the program, get the speakers on. The sponsorship team then took a few weeks to get everything in. At that same time, we were looking for the venues and planning those sides of things. So I think it very much depends on the market you're in and the sector you're in, and I would advise getting some advice from someone in the specific sector that you're working in. But those are the sort of 2 lead times that I can remember off the top of my head.
Do you look at a specific, so say if it was like a conference or an exhibition, you go, okay, that probably needs about this length of time, then do you have sort of a timescale in your head?
Quite often, we get brought in after the idea has been formulated. And so sometimes we get brought in after the idea has been formulated and with the 6-week lead-in time. And there aren't many shows that we would take on with that length of lead-in time, but it was the dessert festival and, you know, dessert. So we agreed to it. But if someone is launching a show that's never been done before, if they think they're going to get it off the ground in less than 18 months, we are very dubious about it and their proposal. If it's an established show and either, like I say, the ops team, the ops manager has left, or they want to swap contractors, that we normally look to a year 9 months. We would hope to have in our pocket to manage it, and most of the time that's because of budget. So budgets tend to get set about a year out for the sort of events that we do. So if we try and we try to get in at the point where we can influence the budget, because otherwise you have someone who has no concept of what things cost and how things happen, setting a budget, and you have to start performing miracles on pennies.
And I guess a year sounds like a long time, and you know, in a vacuum, but
it does. And we're working on several projects at any point. So we probably do about an event every 6 weeks, either me and my business partner. So we're constantly at different stages of different events. I'd like to say we sort of take them when they work with our schedule, but generally nothing ever works with the schedule, and we just take them.
You just got to get it done. So do you have any like key advice that would be for anyone looking to set out either their own business or freelance, or you know, some kind of hybrid of the two? Would you have any like key bits of advice for that?
I think, like I said, the network is key in terms of peers to bounce your ideas off, mentors to work with, and just having that safety net. It can be quite lonely being on your own, so having that network works really well. I found, whilst I love working at home, I needed somewhere to go sometimes, certainly when I had risk assessments to read, because it's amazing how exciting your washing becomes when you've got a pile of risk assessments to read. So I got a membership, a sort of membership club where there were just other people around. And so on the days when I had no meetings and I was sat at home on my own, as you may tell, I'm not someone who's very good at being on my own. I like a chat and to see people. So I got somewhere, and I would go and sit myself up there for the day and work from there. Have a change of scenery, because you start hating your four walls when that's all you see. And just keep developing your network and go out to sort of relevant industry events and things like that, and see what's out there, see who's out there, learn. Just keep that's the other thing, is keep learning is part of what makes this job enjoyable. Is there's always developments in everything we do, and there's always something exciting happening. Go to another event, see how someone else does it, because your ideas aren't the only ideas out there. There are other ways of doing things, and there's, you know, I go take something from the drag show that I put on a data show, which you wouldn't think works, but it really did. Those sorts of little bits and bobs, and just sort of keep developing those ideas.
Do you think there's any any definite thing that's like, okay, now's the time that I should probably, you know, like if you've been maybe considering it for a little while, you maybe be nervous to make the leap? Is there anything that like it signals that, I guess? Tricky one, I know. No?
I would say, and this is very much on the back of the last year, have 3 months money in the bank before you do anything, and then see if you still feel like it, because as the past year has shown, God knows it can go like that. But other than that, it just felt like the right time for me. So I don't know. And I think all my friends and colleagues who have gone freelance or done it, they've just felt it was right. They were fed up at the company. They weren't feeling valued. They weren't enjoying the job anymore. They weren't getting anything. They weren't learning. They weren't developing. And I think these things sort of start piling up one on top of the other, and you're like, now's the time.
Yeah, I think as well, success always kind of lies on the other end of a leap of faith. Like, you got to put that investment into yourself, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if anyone has any final questions, we've got a little bit of time, but if not, then I think that's everything. I've heard myself prattle on for a little bit too long. Yeah. Any final words? I mean, we need to hear that pigeon story. So as well.
No, I think we've told the pigeon story. No, it's not a pigeon story at the CCR,
no,
but it's certainly not for this company at this time of night.
Okay, well, I think
find me in the bar after a few hours at Confex, and I may tell you the story.
I will hold you to that. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Miriam, and thank you everyone for coming. I'll pass back to Naomi now to say goodbye, but thanks for allowing me to chat for a bit.
Thank you. Connor, I was just going to say thank you so much again for joining us this evening, and for Miriam for all your time. And it's been very wonderful to hear all your stories and such practical tips. Like, there was no fluff there. I love that. Like, we don't need fluff. We need those practical tips. And we'll definitely be taking a lot from this. So thank you so much again for your time and for joining us on the Mentor series, and for everyone for joining us this evening. The recording will be available hopefully very soon. I'll send it over to Katie after this, but enjoy the rest of your evening, and please do connect with Miriam and Ways and Means events, because it'll be incredible to watch the journey once we are let back out in the real world and back into the wilderness.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and hopefully we'll see you again at next week's Mentor series. Bye now.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye.